Something very strange is happening, said his driver. I think it's best we go back. So do I, agreed Henry. By morning, the mist had cleared. A workman was talking about the unsafe viaduct. Lucky you didn't cross it last night. Yes, but we don't know who warned us, replied Henry's driver. Later that day, he spoke to Henry. The viaduct has been repaired. We can take our train back along the old line tonight. Henry didn't really want to. But when nightfall came, he was sizzling nicely. Suddenly, an owl hooted, and then Gordon thundered by. Oh, look! Henry's spooked, said a truck, and the others giggled in their silly way. Be quiet, snapped Henry. I'm not scared. But he was. A little later, the fog came down. As they approached the same area, they saw the amber light again. Here we go, said Henry's driver. Then, unbeknown to Henry, the gates mysteriously closed by themselves, and the signal went red. The trucks had seen all, and they were spooked too. Faster, faster, there's a ghost about. Stop, stop, yelled Henry. A mysterious figure watched Henry go by. Ahead was a landslide blocking the line. Henry braked hard, but the trucks hit some of the rubble and plunged into the ravine. Just then, Henry's driver saw a strange sight coming towards them. What's that? He said. The fireman laughed. That's our ghost. It's old Bailey, the fogman. Old Bailey was very cross. I tried to warn you about that viaduct. Why didn't you pay attention? We're sorry we ignored your warnings, replied the driver. Is there anything we can do to thank you? I'd like to operate that old station again, if you let me. I promise I won't spook Henry. And in a little while, old Bailey's wish was granted. You and your station will be really useful, said the Fat Controller. Let's hear a hearty thank you to the friendliest, ghost on the island. Everyone cheered, especially Henry, who was the happiest of all. The Fat Controller soon heard the sad news. We must cheer her up. Send Harold the helicopter to pick her up immediately. A few minutes later, there was a surprise for Mrs. Kindly. All present and correct, called Harold. I'm here on a flying visit. Hurry aboard, Mrs. Kindly, and fly the sky with me. Compliments of the Fat Controller. Ooh, how lovely. Harold's made my red paint dustier than ever, muttered James, but he was happy for Mrs. Kindly. Soon she was flying high in Harold. I've never seen the island like this before. It's wonderful, she said. Meanwhile, Percy and Oliver had arrived at the docks. Cranky the Crane was unloading an old tramp steamer. Hey, down there, you two! I'm playing Lucky Dip in the Tramper's Hole, and all of these are for you. Wooden horses, Percy exclaimed, for the carousel ride. It's going to be a very exciting fair. It is indeed, whistled James. The Fat Controller has ordered me to stop pulling coal trucks and go to the station instead. Something to do with Mrs. Kindly. Goodbye. Well, what do you think of that? Gasped Percy. Mrs. Kindly was waiting for James with the Fat Controller. Now this is your very special treat. James will take you on a mystery ride and I shall meet you at your destination. James took Mrs. Kindly along her favourite coastal route to Tidmouth Bay. When he arrived there, it was dark. A big surprise awaited Mrs. Kindly. "Oh," she cried, "you've brought me to the fairground. How lovely!" Best of all, the Fat Controller invited her to make the announcement, "I declare this fairground open." The side stalls lit up and Mrs. Kindly had the first ride on the carousel. "You were quite right, Thomas," James whispered. "Making someone happy does cheer you up." Then together they watched the fun of the fair. "Why, you're late and that smell is making me ill." "I can't help it, it's the fish," replied Thomas. "And there's danger on the rails, that's why we're late." "Huh, you're the only danger on the rails, Thomas. Now stop wasting time and get your trucks hitched to my train." Thomas's driver and fireman were in the yardmaster's office when they heard Henry's whistle. There he was, steaming out of the station with his long, heavy train called the Flying Kipper. "What route is Henry taking tonight?" asked the driver. "The coastal run, it's the quickest." "But I told you, that's dangerous for a big engine like Henry." The yardmaster quickly phoned the signalman. Henry roared past the signal box. "I'll soon make up for lost time." The signalman was answering the telephone but couldn't hear the warning. By the time he did, Henry was far away in a cloud of steam. But when Henry reached the coastal track, his hopes for a fast run were dashed. Fog floated everywhere. "I can't see," cried Henry. Nor could his driver. When he could, it was too late. As soon as the tide was high enough, Henry was craned out of the water. "Engines don't swim, Henry. You were meant to deliver fish, not swim with them," said the Fat Controller. "You should know that by now." "Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir." When Henry arrived at the docks, Cranky the Crane looked down at him disdainfully. My, Henry, I expect you'll have some fishy tales to tell, but take my advice, have a long hose down first." "Ha!" hissed Henry, but there was worse to come. "Look," said a child, "they've caught all this fish and a green whale too. It's not a whale, it's a monster." Henry was most upset. Thomas now felt sorry for Henry. "Come on, your driver says it's time for a nice hot washdown. Then you'll feel much better." And Henry did. "I'm sorry I was rude to you, Thomas." "Oh, that's all right. But can you smell something?" What? asked Henry nervously. "Fresh air." "Oh, yes," replied Henry. "Thomas." Thomas took no notice. George felt insulted. "You're a useless blue puffball," he shouted. But Thomas didn't hear. "I'll show him who's boss." At last the workmen reached the level crossing. "What shall we do here?" "Tear it up, tarmac it," said George. So they did, but not properly, and George knew it too. Later, Thomas was travelling home on the same line. He was pulling trucks filled with vegetables. The signalman had forgotten to warn his driver about the crossing. "That's nice, we don't need to stop," said Thomas happily. "Yes, we do," called his driver, but it was too late. Next day, Percy told Gordon all about George. "Huh!" snorted Gordon. "You're just a small engine, that's why he's rude to you. He wouldn't dare cause me any trouble." George had been taken to some yards to work. As he was chuffering about, Duck arrived with a train of empty trucks. George was blocking his way, and a truck was stuck on the main line. "Let me through," demanded Duck. "I'm too busy. You'll just have to wait." "There's no time to wait. I must clear my trucks from the main line to let Gordon through." "Pah," said George. "Then he'll have to wait too." Duck's driver went to complain to the station master, but the signalman had already switched the points and set the signal to allow Gordon to speed through. His passengers were singing his praises, and he was making express time. "I'm the greatest, just watch me fly by," he whistled long and loud as he approached the station. Suddenly he saw a truck on the line ahead. "Get out of my way!" But the truck wouldn't move. Until Gordon forced it. By accident. Gordon was worried that the Fat Controller would be cross. He was, but not with Gordon. "Whoever caused this disturbance will have me to answer to." And he did, a few days later. "Look who's here," said Thomas. George had been found out by the Fat Controller and punished. He looked miserable. "Now we'll get some peace at last," said Percy. "I want to get rolling again, but I've got to wait a whole week till I do. And then you'll be just as..."